Hello, in this session, we will be talking about teaching speaking, and it is very important because speaking is a receptive skill, and when we teach speaking, we of course teach our students to do what they need to do with the language. We teach them to talk. So today we'll talk about speaking as a productive skill. We'll talk what teaching speaking is. Then we'll understand the difference between fluency and accuracy. And we'll talk about error correction in speaking. So here is the scheme that we have seen so many times. And speaking here is a skill, it's a productive skill, and it, of course, is based on the knowledge of the language system. If we look at speaking as at a productive skill, we'll see that a teacher needs to set the ground for production, ideas, vocabulary, organization, organize the process of production, and ask herself or himself what is more useful for your student, a product or a process. Do you focus at accuracy, which is a product, or do you focus at fluency, which is a process, and then assess the product. So speaking is difficult. For speaking, we need to have phonological skills, to know syntax, to know the words, pragmatics, and understand the meaning of phrases. So speaking also combines grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, fluency, and whatnot. So when we teach speaking, we teach our students to produce English sounds. We also teach them about stress. We select the words and sentences according to audience, situation, and subject matter. And we teach them to organize their thoughts in a meaningful and logical sequence. Finally, it's important to use the language quickly and confidently. So we actually go from accuracy through the different construction of the language to fluency and complexity. So if we look at the classroom, we'll see that the speaking performance may be imitation when we drill, responses, transactional dialogue, interpersonal dialogue, and performance, which is a monologue. So usually we talk about two forms of speaking, monologue and dialogue. But here I would like to follow Jack Richards and think of speaking as talk as interaction, talk as transaction, and talk as performance. When talk is interaction, here the social relations are important, and it is the conversational starter. It reflects relationships and roles. When talk is a transaction, it focuses on message, information, so it's important to learn more about the subject of the talk. And when talk is a performance, it means that it's already a monologue. It is close to the monologue. And if talk is a performance, we need to impact the listener and to transmit the information in front of an audience. So very briefly, I'll tell you the experience of interclass. So we don't wait for many years to do our talk as a performance. We do interactions. We also do transactions when our students ask questions and answer them. But the main focus at the lower levels, at level 1, 2, and 3, is on talk as a performance, when we allow our students to prepare presentations on different topics using the maps and to perform. Of course, it may look a bit strange. How can a student perform if they barely talk? But with the help of the scheme, with the help of the map, students can easily make a short performance. They make a short presentation, and it quickly puts them into a situation of success. After this performance, even the youngest kids and the one with the very, very initial knowledge starts feeling that he or she can speak, and it greatly raises the motivation. Later, we do a lot of chains, answers, questions, and of course presentations all the time. The important issue about pronunciation is about speaking is pronunciation. From our own experience, we don't have the classes on pronunciation. However, pronunciation is always in the limelight, in the spotlight, on the spotlight. So because it's important to teach our students to pronounce correctly at least the following sounds, like w, s, z, yeah, a, and then a and These are the sounds that can help recognize the words, and they're important for the word recognition. So we don't really practice much p, b, k. We just tell that they are plosives. However, these sounds will be paid great attention to during the whole course until our students pronounce them automatically well. And this brings us to the discussion of accuracy and fluency. What is actually accuracy? Accuracy is when we pronounce the words and the phrases correctly with the correct intonation and correct sounds. However, it is difficult to pronounce and to produce speaking correctly when you do it on the go, when it's the flow, when you participate in a conversation, because then you don't control your language so much. So every teacher tends to focus on accuracy. However, fluency is very important. And if we want to develop our students' speaking skills, we have to shift from accuracy to fluency. And it's better to do the shifts as early as possible, even when your students don't speak really well. So make them speak spontaneously so that they could not only follow the patterns, but answer your questions and ask spontaneous questions. There are many theoretical implications, and the one that I like mostly is that overuse of accuracy monitoring can cripple language development. In simple words, it means that if you overcorrect your kids, if you correct them all the time, every mistake, at a certain level, their language development will be hampered and crippled. So it is really harmful to do this excessive monitoring. So as a teacher, you need to feel the shift from accuracy to fluency, and don't overcorrect, or not to overcorrect. Yeah? So as I've already said, we start teaching speaking from very simple sentences, which are organized in the projects or presentations. We also pay a great attention, or we are concerned about language accuracy at a certain point, but still there comes the time when there is an opportunity for a speaking activity, for a speaking class or a part of the class. So for this, of course, vocabulary needs to be pre-taught. So we can also do lots of language learning. We can talk about the systems and we can talk about pronunciation, the grammar, and so on. But the speaking model, which is given at the end of the unit, is really important. And at the early stages, when you plan speaking, you probably will try to use a model before your students shift to real fluency. Here is the example of interclass textbook. When all skills are integrated, we teach the vocabulary, then our kids do some exercises, some tasks. Here they also can talk about the parents. Then they practice the dialogue and they listen to it as well. And finally, we give them the model to tell about going shopping, how the family went shopping, and what they did, or how they're going shopping now, and what they're going to do. So we scaffold speaking with the very diverse grammar, with very diverse functions, because very often there is very often students may talk a lot and they may tell a lot, but in simple sentences. In interclass, we try to make language systems meaningful, and to make them meaningful, we usually integrate them into the speaking. Of course, this kind of speaking, it's the model for a kind of a presentation when students tell about somebody, and they may tell about their own family, but also this type of speaking may easily become a transactional speaking as well. So, testing. Our student speaks and we need to test them. So what do we test? Of course, we test accuracy, we test fluency, pronunciation, the task, vocabulary, appropriateness, comprehension, and communicative competence. And here are some important possible error corrections when you teach vocabulary. So when you do it, I advise you to look at the vocabulary, to look at these types of error correction, and either recast your students, like repeat the same, only the correct way. You repeat the mistake with the rising intonation. You do paralinguistic explanation. You do elicitation, clarification request, or you may tell them that they are wrong. All this happens when you develop accuracy. Like this type of correction is for accuracy. However, if you want to develop your students' fluency, it's much better to wait until they stop speaking and only then start correcting them. Because again, if you correct your students while they are speaking at an advanced level, you can really hamper or greatly hamper their speech production. So remember about your role as a facilitator of the speaker. Remember that a learner's responsibility has to be increased through the activities that they are choosing, through the talk time, through the mode of interaction, and it is very necessary to adjust your feedback or error correction to what your learners are talking about. So finally, the conclusion that we do after every skills video. So we read here see, and it's still a passive learning. When we talk, we act, and any type of a talk is the participation in the development of your speaking skills. Remember about it. Speaking is not only in a speaking lesson, it is also in a productive follow-up, it is also in every chance to talk, it is in the interactions, in transactions, in teacher talk, teacher and student communication at the lesson. The same as listening. Speaking is the essence of your lessons. So every time you plan your lesson, remember about it. So thank you and see you next time.